COVID-19 response, and we are so grateful for their efforts and commitment to public service. We have also had the chance to visit some of our Missouri veterans' homes. Our veterans' home staff have done a great job taking care of our veterans during these times. Teresa and I were glad to visit with them and to thank them. Our veterans' homes are currently in the process of implementing a hand-holding station, which allows veterans to have direct contact with loved ones while still following COVID-19 safety protocols. This interaction is especially important with some of our veterans who struggle with dementia and depression. It is very heartwarming and encouraging to see some of our veterans and their families reconnect in person for the first time in many months. Missouri school leaders, teachers, and staff also continue to work hard for our students. According to DESE, 88% of Missouri public and charter schools are providing some type of in-person learning options. This accounts for approximately 75% of Missouri students. And this is good news, and we are glad to see our kids in school. This is critical to their learning and development, and would like to see 100% of our schools providing in-person options in the near future. As far as COVID-19 numbers in Missouri, our 7-day positivity rate has decreased to 12.2. Although 18 to 24-year-olds are still the highest age group for positive cases, that positivity rate is decreasing as well and looks to be turning the corner. COVID-19 deaths by month are also showing a downward trend. In April and May, over 7% of all observed COVID-19 cases were sadly fatal. That number quickly dropped to 1.9% of cases in June, to 0.9 in July, 0.8% in August, and is currently at 0.3 so far in September. Hospitalizations remain stable, and our cumulative death rate is at 1.6%. This is all very encouraging, and we continue to monitor this data each and every day. On the testing front, we expect 4 of the new testing machines developed by WashU to arrive at the State Health Lab this week, which will be distributed to different locations across the state. The federal government will also be shipping 150 million Abbott rapid tests by the end of 2020. We anticipate 3 million of those tests will be coming to Missouri. Progress also continues with COVID-19 vaccine. Over the weekend, Pfizer submitted an amended protocol to the FDA to expand enrollment of its COVID-19 vaccine trial and hopes to know more by the end of October. The White House has tasked states to develop a COVID-19 vaccine distribution plan. So our team is working to finalize that plan and ensure we are prepared when a vaccine does become available. We also continue to make good progress with the economy. All told, Missouri has recovered 61% of the jobs lost in April and May, and the national average is 78% of the jobs were recovered. Although there were no major changes in August, Missouri's economic recovery continues to be ahead of the nation. While COVID-19 is always top of mind, we also cannot lose sight of the many other issues facing our state. Violent crime continues to be a serious problem. On Sunday night, another St. Louis police officer was shot while on duty. This is the 9th police officer shot in St. Louis City this year. Our thoughts and our prayers are with their families, their friends, and fellow law enforcement officers across our state and across our nation. Police officers, like the people they serve, our mothers, our fathers, our husbands, our wives, our daughters and sons. Violence is never the answer. It does nothing but widen the divide. The shooting and killing of one another has to stop. If we are to change violent criminal acts across our state, we must work together, and we must support our law enforcement officers. As you know, House Bill 46 on police residency and House Bill 66 on the Witness Protection Fund passed last week. We are excited and plan to sign these as soon as possible. Again, I cannot say this enough. Please continue to social distance. Continue to wear a mask. Wash your hands. Avoid large crowds as much as possible. It has been 6 months now. We all know how to do all of these things. I have said many times that the recovery process would not be the flip of a switch, but a gradual process, and we must keep our efforts as we move forward. Thank you, and God bless. Dr. Williams is also here today to be able to answer some questions, so Kelly, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Governor. It's good to see everybody. Just want to start out by thanking the Governor. We were just over at the State Health Lab, and the Governor has the gift of encouragement and appreciation, and I think those are such great qualities in a leader. And I know everybody at the State Health Lab really appreciated him coming by. We were marveling. The Governor and I can remember back in April when I was in his office, and we were doing everything we could to get 100 tests, and they did 750 tests Friday night and are doing that, and they're doing that through technology. And so just greatly appreciate him taking the time to go by and say thank you. It means so much to them. But also it just shows, as he said, that we're in a much better and different place in handling the virus than we were back then, and that accentuates that. A couple things I want to update you on today, just to make sure you know, we got our playbook from the CDC on the vaccine. As the Governor said, we've already been working on that, anticipating this, but certainly want to get you a copy if you haven't seen that. That follows up on what we've been doing, which will be a phased-in approach, 3 phases, a tiered approach. I was on a phone call with Tony Fauci and Brett Giroir and Bob Redfield and Jerome Adams on Thursday. I'm on the board of directors of ASTO, and they just wanted to reassure us that with Pfizer and Moderna and the FDA, they're going through all the safety steps, all the efficacy steps. And we're very hopeful that we will have that in limited doses in November. And so we are working very hard in a whole government approach to do that implementation. But I would encourage you to read this report. It came out today. The second thing is, as the Governor said, very exciting. I was also on a phone call with Brett Giroir. The new Binex Now test by Abbott is just like a credit card. Costs $5. I guess I'm an obstetrician, I'm allowed to say this, but it's like a pregnancy test. You just you self-administer, swab the card, put a little reagent on, and voila, you have a test result back in about 5 minutes, an antigen test. And we're getting ready to get, in the next 2 weeks, a large distribution of those that will go to our long-term care facilities, that will go to our historically black universities, and also to our K through 12 schools, and we plan to expand that. So that is, again, another game changer in addition to the saliva-based testing that the Governor talked about that, again, has been developed right here at our own WashU. Flu season, next week we will launch on Monday our flu campaign. We are trying to get up. Normally in Missouri, about 45% of people get vaccinated. We'd like to get that up to 60%. We have gotten additional vaccine and are working with our health departments and our hospitals to make that happen. The Governor and the First Lady have been gracious enough to lead that campaign again. So they will be getting their vaccinations next week. And then the final thing I just want to talk about is the state of the state, where we are. So that we're in a phase now, you remember for the last 3 or 4 weeks, number 18 to 24-year-olds. And as the governor said, they're still higher, but they appear to be plateauing to some extent. And what we're seeing is a Midwest increase in cases. If you look at Arkansas, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas, as Ambassador Burks, Jack was asking me a couple weeks ago, what did Ambassador Burks say? And one of the things she said, Jack, was you can expect to see an increase in cases in the Midwest, and that's what we've seen. And we're also seeing them go more outstate as opposed to St. Louis and Kansas City, which appear to be plateaued. We're incredibly thankful that our hospitalizations, our deaths are not at a corresponding rate that the number of cases would have been back in April or May. As the governor said, fatality rate's gone down from 7% to less than 1%. And it's interesting because we've been so focused with our partners, the Missouri Hospital Association and WashU, we can really look at this data granularly. So when we talk about outstate, which now 60% of our cases are outstate, it's really in the mid-range communities. It's those communities that are not real rural, less than 25 or 50,000 people. It's more like Joplin and St. Gerardo and places like that is where we're seeing it. And so that helps us develop our strategy. So that's kind of where we are right now, and we're very much focused on that. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions, Kelly.
Hey, Dr. Williams.
Hey, Sebastian.
Chancellor of the University of Missouri was here yesterday, kind of
Yes.
explaining how the university's doing and their approach. He cited AMA guidance when it came to testing symptomatic people in close contacts. My understanding is that guidance is in situations where you have testing shortages. To your knowledge, is there a testing shortage in Boone County, and do you agree with the strategy of the university so far?
Well, I talked to Scott on, I think it was Monday of this week, and asked him if there's anything to help. And then I was on a phone call with Zora and all the university presidents yesterday, I think it was. And as we have talked about, we really, really want people to get tested. We have the capacity to do about 100,000 tests a week, if not more, and that's just with PCR, much less with the Binax coming on and others. And so, as you know, we're doing community testing right now in Boone County. So I have incredible respect for Moon and what he's doing. But at this point, we would like people to get tested, as many as can get tested. We'd be more concerned about not limit testing, but expanding that.
Hi, yeah, I'm Hannah Norton. I'm with the Columbia Missourian. And in terms of the saliva test that you both talked about, will MU be one of the first to get one of those 4 testing machines since they've asked about it and because there are a lot of cases there?
You know, I don't know that yet. And as soon as I do know, I'm happy to share that with you if you'll follow up with Kelly. But at this point, I don't know where those machines are going.
Hi, my name is Marissa with Channel 8. I have a question. Yesterday, Boone County was notified about over 12,000 COVID-19 cases that were unaccounted for. Can I ask why there was such a delay in those number of cases?
Yeah, you know, as I look across the country, I just see more and more, you see these tranches and these data. I saw in Illinois last week, we had a situation a couple weeks ago, as other states I'm familiar with. There's just so many tests being done now, and they're being done by so many different people, and they're being done on different platforms, that I just think we've got to understand that there are going to be these kind of, however you want to describe them, these kind of peaks and flows, and that's almost going to be part of the operating rhythm. And in a perfect world, that wouldn't be true, but as I look across the country, looked at Texas this weekend, and they've had a real time of it. So when we look at Columbia, I know they've gone back and looked at their positivity rate, and there was a large number of negatives they hadn't accounted for. I heard that today. And so that's not ideal. We wish it didn't happen, but I just think as you introduce all these different tests and you have all these different labs doing them and you're reporting them through so many venues, all the health departments and all, that that may happen.
Noah Brown, Channel 13.
Hey, Noah.
So the Boone County Health Department yesterday issued a statement saying that they reported, or there were some errors in their reporting, and particularly in the positivity rate.
Yeah.
How concerning is that to you, and how concerned are you about that, not just having this be a one-time issue?
great question. To your point, I don't want to leave you the impression that when that happens, we go, well, that's going to happen. It means we always have to go back and look at our processes and see, where that's occurring. So it's a great point you bring up, is that while I do think that we'll probably see perhaps more of that than we wished, it's not an excuse not to go back and figure out why it happened and try to prevent it from coming in the future. Thank you for pointing that out.
Dr. Williams, just a quick question, kind of a two-part question. How are case numbers in relation to Missouri prisons with both co-workers and inmates, and are you satisfied with the precautions that have been put in place to keep people safe?
Yeah, I just can't commend Ann Precythe and Matt enough, and Mark Stringer in mental health. I mean, do we have more cases than we wished? I called Ann this weekend. I can't remember what day it was, but because we did have an increased number of cases come in. But I mean, when I look around the country, and I don't have to go very far, I can go south and I can go west and look at states. I mean, we see these other states have 2,000 prisoners and 1,200 test positive, and we've seen that in other states. And so I just know Ann and Mark and others have been incredibly dutiful about trying to do their very best to prevent that. So, I guess the answer to your question is I'm just incredibly thankful that we've had the experience here that we have had in Missouri as opposed to other places.
I will take two more questions right here.
Hi, Dr. Williams.
Hey.
Amber Tabling with ABC 17.
Yes.
You and Governor Parson have each said that a blanket approach for masks would not work in Missouri. So what kind of approach would work in Missouri to decrease the rate of new cases?
Yeah, I think that the first thing we do is try to make a diagnosis. Where are those cases? The governor's been very purposeful about our data, so we don't have to just shoot blindly. We can kind of really get down and look. And so what we're seeing now is in outstate, in these middle-sized communities, that's where our cases are, not so much that we were seeing in St. Louis and Kansas City. And so I think what you're seeing there is to very much reinforce the governor's message. Hand washing, social distancing, and wearing a mask if you can't do those. And I'll give a little bit of a shout out to you. There was a great article on GMA on Tuesday morning on the ABC about masking studies down at Florida Atlantic. I don't know if you saw it. I've been sending it to different people. So I think it's a great segue. Just wearing a mask can give you a false sense of security. You've got to wear it over your nose, and it's just not any mask. So I give credit to ABC for pointing that out, and would commend you to watch that. So because of where we know, 3 weeks ago, our very focused message was college students. It was our 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, because of our data, we can modulate that and really do our messaging on, we really need to concentrate on these communities, these middle-sized communities, and those measures, which reminds me of them. Okay, go Chiefs. I just got to get that in. Thank you.
Jack, we'll start with you.
Hi, Governor.
Yes.
What did you make of the House Democrats' memo on Monday that said there were credible allegations your administration interfered with the medical marijuana
I think it was a total political bias report that was done with no factual basis at all. It was taken from a Democrat aide, I think. Maybe it was in your report that you reported, I'm not for sure, but no, nothing to substantiate that at all. It was totally a political report, what took place there. And that's going to continue on until now, to the election. And it's just the biased nature of what's going to happen here.
Do you think that the House should continue its probe of the medical
Kurt, go
marijuana
ahead.
program?
Kurt, go ahead.
Do you think the House should continue its probe of the medical marijuana program? And then also, I was hoping for some additional comment on concurrent jurisdiction.
Well, I don't know what the House is going to do. I'm not privy to that, to when they're going to have their committees back up and anything. I would assume they left today like you would. I don't know if they're coming back unless we call them back for something, but I don't know anything about any committee hearings moving forward. That's the House's decision, what they do on that. What was the second question?
Special session, the concurrent jurisdiction fizzled.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We got the two main pieces that we wanted. The main priority for St. Louis was the residency piece, and the main priority for Kansas City was the witness protection plan, which we'll be able to use that all over the state. You know, look, you're not going to hit a home run every time in this building. We're very content with what we got moving. Anything we can do to help law enforcement, to help victims in this state, to fight violent crime is a win, no matter how small or how big it is. You know, I truly want to thank the Senate for stepping up and really trying to take care of the victims out here in law enforcement and the hard work they did. You know, but we're going to continue to work on those issues. That's the way this building works, and I'm pleased. I'm looking forward to traveling around the state next week talking about things that we did do to help fight violent crime in this state.
Sir, I don't know you. Would you identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Adam Jackson with the Missourian, Columbia Missourian. Thank you. And I was wondering, 2 out of the 5 bills today, you kind of spoke about sentiments with Kurt, made it to your desk. Considering the Republican supermajority, would you consider the results today a disappointment?
No, here's for me, you know, I don't keep score on how many bills I pass or how many I don't. It's about making things into law that helps everyday people. You know, we got a violent crime situation in this state. We need to do everything we can. And regardless whether it's Republican or Democrat, this is not a one-party issue. This violent crime affects all of us. I mean, we've worked with the African American Legislative Caucus. We've been to St. Louis, to Kansas City with the clergies, with Better Family Life. Many people had input into this, so it's not a political issue at all. It's about what are you going to do about violent crime in the state. So I'm glad we got those two pieces done, and we'll keep working to give law enforcement and victims the tools they need to fight crime.
Governor Parson, is there any chance of coming back for COVID liability? Where do they stand? We heard a lot about that on the Senate floor today. What are your takes on COVID liability?
Well, you know, I think the legislature is going to have to show a path forward to that to be able to take that under consideration. You know, if we're going to come back for special session, we got to have a game plan in place, and well, that's an issue that needs to be addressed. But again, I'll wait for both bodies to come in and we'll discuss that and see if there's a path forward. But I encourage them to find a path, because I think it's huge for the businesses and the healthcare, the education institutions of our state. So that's one thing I hope that they can find something to agree on.
Thank you. Hi, Governor Parson. Missouri is listed as the 4th highest rate of COVID-19 cases according to the White House Red Zone report. That's the highest ranking in the higher ranking in the previous 2 weeks in that report. Do you have faith in this White House report, and what is being done to reverse Missouri's upward trend in the rate of cases?
I think we just did that in the briefing to tell you where we was at on testing capacity, on hospitalization, on the fatality rate. You know, what you're talking about is guidance that they send down. If we did all their guidance, I think the CDC recommends everybody go to school. You know, the guidance in that, you know, different things like that. But the reality of it is I'm going to trust the Missouri data that I have in front of me with the experts here in Missouri, with the doctors here, with the Hospital Association. We know what our hospital capacities are. We know what our fatality rate is, and we're going to continue to know. We see those numbers are stabilizing in this state. We know that younger generation of 18 to 24 is spiking these numbers up. We all know that. That counts for about a third of what's going on here. But all of that has to be taken into consideration of where we're at. From day one, we tried to do a balanced approach, and we're going to continue to do that moving forward. And, you know, this virus is here. We're going to have to be working every day to do what we can to keep people safe, and we're going to continue to do that.
Kind of a two-part question here dealing with money. Minority Leader Crystal Quaid says that this special session wasted $200,000 solely to boost your prospects for an election. Second, what's your response to that? And my second question, what is the state going to do about funding the pretrial witness protection fund?
Well, the first part of it's a pretty sad statement, no matter who makes that. I don't know what the cost of special session is, but maybe she could explain what the cost of 191 people that's died in St. Louis, or the 130 some odd that's died in Kansas City. Maybe we put a value on that. I'm sure not going to. You know what? Again, anything I can do to protect a child, a victim of a homicide, you know, is the least of my worries. What the legislatures, what it costs to get them in here. It's about trying to protect people in this state right now, and that's more important a lot than trying to make a political statement like that. And that's all that is just a political hype. And the second part of your question was?
Second part is, what's the state going to do as far as funding the pretrial witness protection program that was passed by the General Assembly?
That they just did? You mean the money behind it? How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to see what avenues we can to get that money there. You know, we've made a commitment to that. There'll be another special session on supplemental budget sometime in October. I do know that. At some point, it may be addressed then. But, you know, we'll see what other avenues we have to might be able to utilize to do that. But it's something we want to get implemented as soon as we can. Again, to help the victims out there. I mean, you know, we just got to step it up. We got to step it up. And I think one of the things you're seeing, I'm so thankful when the federal government brought Operations Legends in. And if you really see when the federal government, the state government, and the local officials all work together to fight violent crime, it works. We know that works. But I don't know that any one entity is going to be able to fix all these problems by itself. And we just got to continue working together. Again, with the legislatures, with the governor's office, with the police officers, with the victims, those are not political issues. Those are everyday issues that we're all trying to solve. And I think we're going to do better at it, and we need to continue to moving forward on that. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here.